So, good morning. We are all here now. I can see 18 people in the room, including myself. Hello, Akhilesh, Apurva, Archana, Jason, Karunakar, Nitin Joshi, Ranjit Kumar, Samir, Sanjeev Chaudhary, Sanju, Sargam, Saurabh, whose name is showing twice, Shri Arvind, Suveen, Vinay, and Yashpal. Is my voice clear and can you see my screen? So one quick check. Do we all know what to do in case of technical difficulty? In case you cannot hear me, does everyone know what they need to do? Okay. So if you're not able to hear me, then you need to call tech support. The number is on the top right hand corner of every slide. Also, if you have any questions, then make a note of it. We will address all questions at the end of the webinar at around 12:45, 1 o'clock. Today is day 2 of email marketing. My name is Ramya Pandyan. I think most of you were at the orientation and deliverability webinar last week. I hope you all had a good week. So I know last week would have been a somewhat heavy session because it's a little technical. But today, hopefully, you'll really enjoy it because content creation is a lot of fun. Once you've figured out how to make sure your emails reach the end recipient, then we can get on with the business of actually designing great emails, which is what today's session is going to be about. This is our agenda for today. In the first half, I'm going to take you through the basics of email creation, business email creation, where we'll talk about how to catch the recipient's eye once it's in the mailbox, how to use images, some basics about text and design, and after that we'll move into the knowledge check and we'll take a short break. That'll be around 11:30, 11:45. And once we come back from the break, we'll get into the second half, which is how to use this from a marketing standpoint, which are the prime areas of visibility where the recipient's eye is drawn, how to optimize your marketing email for mobile, and after that we'll get into the question and answer and the knowledge check. Okay, but we'll start with a quick recap. Servers are the devices that perform the different functions on the internet. The two kinds of servers that you need to remember are SMTP servers, which is simple mail transfer protocol servers, and SMTP servers and mail servers. So SMTP servers are simple mail transfer protocol servers whose job it is to send emails, and mail servers whose job it is to receive, organize, and store emails. The other kind of devices that you need to know about are routers. Router's job is to take your query to the correct server and ensure that the query is processed and returned to you. There's IP address or internet protocol address, which is a unique string of numbers assigned to every single device connecting to the internet by its internet service provider. This is the path that your email takes. The minute you hit send, it is sent on to the router, who then takes it on to the SMTP server. The SMTP server's job is to send emails, so it sends it out in the direction of the mail server of the recipient. The mail server puts each and every email through all these checks. First, there's a firewall which ensures that your email has no viruses. Then there's a spam filter which checks the text of your email against patterns by known spammers. There's an authentication check which ensures that you are who you say you are and that your email has not been tampered in transit. And finally, there is a reputation check which looks at your history as a sender. If and only if your email passes all these checks, is it allowed to move on to the router, which in turn sends it on to the mailbox, where the recipient checks it on any one of these three different ways to check email. They also have a spam filter at their own end, which is under the recipient's control. This spam filter decides whether your email goes into the spam folder or one of the other folders in the mailbox. Now, what happens if an email fails any one of these checks? It's set to bounce. There are two types of bounces: soft bounce and hard bounce. A soft bounce is what happens when the mail server is, in a few rare cases, if the mail server is down, but more often because your email is too large, or if the recipient's mailbox is too full and doesn't have any space to accommodate your email. In the case of a soft bounce, the SMTP server will try a couple of more times to send the email. Failing that, it will send you a bounce notification. The hard bounce is a lot more serious. A hard bounce happens when the domain name of the recipient address is wrong, or the recipient's email address itself is incorrect or invalid, or if the spam filter has caught your email, which means that the text of your email is too spammy, or if the firewall has caught your email, which means that there is a virus on your email. In the case of both soft bounce and hard bounce, these will get counted under bounce rate, which is number of emails that bounced divided by number of emails that were sent as a percentage. Delivery rate is number of emails that were delivered divided by number of emails that were sent as a percentage. Delivery rate and bounce rates are the first most important measures of measuring email marketing success. These are some of the problems that happen on email, which is the reason for these protective measures. Spoofing is when the sender is pretending to be someone else. Phishing is when the sender is trying to extract sensitive information. Spam is when there are too many emails, they are irrelevant, and there are trust issues that the recipient has with the sender. So let's get into email content now. Before we go ahead, how many of you have had a chance to do all the things that I've asked you to do? I really hope all of you have been doing this, because if you only come and attend the webinars, I'm afraid this will not stick with you and you will not be, you'll not find it very useful. Okay, that's great, Akhilesh. So please make sure during the week, go through the video, go through the reading material, go through the pre-reading notes, and please get started on the assignment, because the assignment is not something that you can do overnight. It will take you some time to do, and Digital Vidya will only give you a certificate once you've completed the assignment satisfactorily. Okay, so please do that, and if you have any questions during the week, you can post them to the discussion forums. In addition to that, I also asked you to look at your promotions folder and your spam folder for about 2 minutes every day. I hope all of you have been doing that, because that's really your best teacher. You'll see a lot of things making more sense as we go through the webinars. Okay, so let's get into the actual content of an email. This is what your email inbox looks like, right? Your mailbox looks like. Your email is a combination of both text and design, and you need to make both of them work, because with email, it's a very, very friendly technology and it's a very easy to use technology. And also, there are lots of people on the internet. Every single one of them has an email address. All your digital customers have email addresses. But this also means that there are so many emails flooding through that you need to stand out from all of them. And it's a really tough challenge. And that means every little scrap of attention that you get, you have to maximize it. You cannot afford to make any mistakes or slip up anywhere. So if you're really good at writing, you still need to make sure that your design elements are in place. If you're really, really good at design, which is color and layout and font and things like that, you still will have to make sure that your email is well worded. Your email has to look good and sound good and relevant. So these two things, text and design, go hand in hand to bring out all these things for the end customer. Scannability is something I want to talk about for a minute. How do all of us look at our mailboxes? We go in like this, especially the promotions folder, and we say, okay, something, 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 Vanessa Hudgens, okay, something, something, all right, done. Neiman Marcus, okay, some offer, I'm going to click on this and then get back. I'll go and look at the offer later. And free books, okay, yay, I like free books, and done. Odyssey Press, Neiman Marcus coupon code, and this one, I'm going to use it. Isn't this how all of us go through our emails, especially the promotions folder? Does anyone here do it differently? That is how your recipients are going to do it. They do not read left to right and top to bottom. That means that you need to make your email easily scannable. That means at a glance, they should know what you're talking about, because if you're not going to make it clear, you can be assured that they are not going to take the time to read through your email. It's not their job to give you a lot of attention. It's your job to catch their attention and make full use of it and not waste their time. So, text and design can both go hand in hand in making your email very scannable. Tonality is the other one. Tonality means, does it sound like your company or your brand sent this email? If you were to create a news show, CNBC, a news show about the latest events in your city, you would hire someone like Arnab Goswami wearing a formal suit, sitting in a studio environment, and the language would be very formal. But if you were to do the same exact show for a channel like MTV, then you'd have a very young host. You'd probably have them walking around wearing very cool clothes and talking in very contemporary lingo. So the tonality is changing depending on who is speaking and who is being spoken to, even though the message is exactly the same. I hope you're all seeing that. That's what tonality is. Making sense? So let's go ahead and look at how to make use of all of these. What is the first thing that how do we decide which email to open in this? What do we all look at? How do we make that decision? Exactly, subject line, right? So subject line is super important. And I'm also going to give you your third metric for email marketing, and this is something called open rate. I'm going to open an Excel sheet and keep it open. Can everyone see this clearly? So open rate is open rate is, all right, Excel. Okay, open rate is nothing but number of emails opened divided by number of emails sent as a percentage. You can also calculate this as number of emails opened divided by number of emails delivered as a percentage. Depending on what you need to understand, you would calculate, you look at each number. So these are open rates. Let's get back here. So what determines open rate? Open rate means, did the reader go in and do this, which is open the email. So there are a number of things that determine that. Subject line is the most important of all of them. A subject line should convey what is there within the email. Do not neglect subject line, because subject line is the most crucial factor in your open rate. And if your emails don't get opened, your message will not get, even if it has gotten delivered, it's ultimately just not going to reach the end consumer. So open rate determined by subject line, and subject line should convey something about what the inside email has. It should answer the question of what is this all about. Be aware that you have to catch attention with this. Don't just state it upfront. Well, stating it upfront is good, but do it in such a way that it really, really catches the reader's attention. So let's look at what kind of subject lines are catching our attention. I'm going to scroll through very slowly. Actually, I'm going to go to page maybe 3 or 4 in this. What I want each of you to do is observe which subject line catches your attention. What is catching your attention? Give me one subject line that catches your attention. What inspires your email design? That's a very good example, this one. So let's understand why our attention is being caught by certain things. First of all, the most common kind of subject line that catches people's attention is something with a question mark, because a question mark invites conversation. So, Harsh, now you know why your attention was caught. Firstly, a question mark looks different. Secondly, it makes you think that this person is already having a conversation. You have a question there, and you know that when you open it, it will answer this question. Give me another one that that catches your attention. How about this one? 3 customer research tactics. So another kind of subject line that really catches attention is anything with a number in it. 50 free call to action templates. Remembering 9/11. Can you see how these are really, really visible to us? So these are again subject lines that catch attention. Anything with a list catches attention. So what's a list? Let's look for a list. This week in content marketing, the business model of more versus less content. So we know that this is going to be a list of things that happened this week. Anything with a how to or how this happened is also a good way to catch attention. Anything that clearly states the benefit is a good way to catch attention. So let's look at what are the things that I've mentioned. Stating a benefit, asking a question, anything with a number or list. Scarcity tactics or FOMO. Does anyone know what FOMO is? FOMO stands for, exactly, FOMO stands for fear of missing out. There's so much information on the internet. We are getting bombarded by it. But all of us are also really scared that we'll miss out on what's most important. And marketers make really good use of this by making their offerings seem very rare or scarce. And marketers have been doing this for decades, even before there was email marketing. Can you think of something that you've seen that is an example of FOMO, of scarcity tactics? All of you have already seen examples of scarcity tactics, and not just on email. Last piece, as long as offer lasts. Stocks last. Offer open until stocks last. Absolutely. Last day of sale. Year end promotion would not be scarcity tactics. It just means it's the end of the year. Unless you put a date to it and say offer open only till the last week of the year. Limited edition is also scarcity tactics. All of these are ways in which marketers catch your attention. Exactly, all of these, because they're making it scarce either in time or limited edition, discount only open to the first 50 customers. All of these are scarcity tactics. So think about this when you are creating your email subject line. Later in the knowledge check, I'll give you some checks that you can come up with subject lines for. Okay, keep these in mind. I'm going to also share a link that you can read later. Okay, this one doesn't seem to open, so ignore that. I just mentioned that, Yashpal, if you read above, you'll see it. It's fear of missing out. So, request all of you, please listen carefully. Repetitions just wear down my throat. So, after a while, it's going to become very unpleasant for you if you're hearing my voice snag. Also, it's wasting a lot of time. Okay, whatever is important, I'm typing it into the chat window. So, keep watch on that as well. Okay. Now, one great thing about email is you can use something called A/B testing. A/B testing allows you to test your email at every step before the final email goes out. How do you do this? A/B testing simply means that you test one thing at a time. You change only one thing at a time and see how small groups of people respond to it. So, let's say you want to test out your subject line, you want to come up with the best possible subject line. You have 3 different subject lines. You'll design your email, send it out to maybe 20 customers with subject line 1, then send it out to 20 other customers with subject line 2. In the first case, you get an open rate of 10%. In the second case, you get an open rate of 17%. Which one is the better subject line? The second one, right? And you know it's the subject line because everything else about the email is the same. So you can do things like this. You should ideally do things like this on email marketing because email marketing allows you to do this. You're not required to bombard your entire database in one go. So test it out with small groups, test out your subject line, test out each other thing, one thing at a time, by changing one thing at a time till you come up with the perfect email that's going to get you fantastic open rates. What is the other thing that you look at when you decide to whether to open an email or not? It's the other thing that's visible, which is your sender name. So your okay. Incidentally, here's an example sent in by one of the participants. They received an email for discounts at restaurants from HDFC Bank, and the subject line said "feeling hungry," so it's got the question mark, but it also has emoji in the subject line. Emoji are a really great way to catch attention because emoji will render even in text formats. Plus, they're colorful. So if you look at this one caught your attention because it's bright red. There are a lot of emoji in here's another one with emoji. Here's one with emoji. You can see the subject lines that use emoji immediately catch your attention. Here, this one also has emoji. Now, when it comes to the sender name, because of concerns about email spoofing, readers are very afraid to trust any email that they don't know who the sender is. So you have to convey not just attractiveness about your email and relevance, you also have to convey credibility. And the sender name is a good place to do that. Think about whether you should use your company name or your person name. This varies depending on the case. If you work for a very big company, a very well known company, it makes sense to use your company name. But if it's a really small company and let's say your email is a follow up to a phone conversation or maybe an in-house visit that you've had, you might want to send it out from your person name. Let's look at what people have been doing. Grepolis is the name of the company. Amanda from Unbound. So people do this as well. Put in both company name as well as person name. Two from Kissmetrics. Content Marketing Institute is a company name. Jay Bear is the person's name. He's also put in just his name. And in some cases, he's used company name as well as person's name. All of us remember no reply emails, right? Some of those are still around. You receive this email, and if you hit reply, then it will not go through because it comes from a no reply address. Please don't do this. It's a very antisocial way of using email marketing. How do you feel if someone comes to you and starts talking and does not allow you to talk? You would not want to talk to them, right? You would not be interested in them. So, marketers who send out no reply emails are people like that. And in today's day and age, given that the customer is spoiled for choices, you can be assured that if you send out a no reply email, they will not choose to interact with you at all. And why would you want to send a no reply email? Email is a very interactive forum. If you want to speak to them and you don't want to hear what they have to say, then maybe some other platform like television advertising is better for you because then you can broadcast the ad and you don't have to listen to what your customers say. But also, why would you not want to listen to what your customers say? If your customers speak to you, then that means they are interested in you. If they dislike what you have to offer, it's better if they come and tell you rather than they go and tell the whole world that, right? This is the reason why marketers are moving away from no reply into a please reply model, which means that everything about your email should invite conversation. Your email should be thought about in a way that what can I say that will make them want to say something back? Am I giving speak? And am I giving them a reason to speak back to me? Am I making it a conversation or am I just going and dumping information on them? Your sender name can also describe what's inside the email. I can't show you any examples of it in my mailbox right now, but all of you would have seen, oops, sorry about that. All of you would have seen e-commerce sites that have, okay, mail opened. All of you would have seen e-commerce sites that have that send you emails from addresses like sales at amazon.com, customer service at flipkart.com, newsletters at zivame.com, right? Why do they do that? Because if a company is sending out a lot of communication, they want to make sure that it's convenient for both them and for you to sift through that communication and look at what's most relevant. So if you receive three emails from Amazon, one is complaints at amazon.com, one is from newsletters at amazon.com, and one is from notifications at amazon.com. You already know which one you want to open first, right? Yes or no? Do you know which one of these you will want to open first if you receive all three emails? Everybody with me so far? I apologize for how my voice sounds. My throat is a little sore, so that's why I'm stumbling a little when I speak. Okay, now, all right, this is great. I'm going to give my throat a little rest and give you a video that you can watch. It's a short video. This is everything. I'm not going to stream it because that'll take up too much bandwidth. Please watch this video and come back and tell me when you're done. Okay, I think that's most of you back. So now that you've ensured, okay, I'm going to go ahead, Yash. All of you, you can just scroll up and pick up whatever links there are. You don't need to keep, I don't need to keep putting it up again and again. Okay, just please scroll up. You'll see whatever you're missing out in the chat window. So please come back. I'm going to continue with the webinar. Now that you've figured out how to get people to open your email, okay, so Yash, could you please call tech support? I think maybe there's a problem with the connection at your end. Yeah, that's okay. No, let's not share it again because I don't want people coming out of it and missing the class while they're watching the video. Most of you have watched it already and come back. Stay with me, please. Okay. Now that the recipient has opened your email, what can you do to ensure that they stay on the email? Your last metric of email marketing success is something called click rate. Your click rate is number of links in the email clicked on divided by number of emails sent as a percentage. So we've got 4 metrics so far. There's bounce rate, which is number of emails bounced divided by number of emails sent as a percentage. There's delivery rate, which is number of emails delivered divided by number of emails sent as a percentage. We covered these two last time. We have just looked at open rate. Now, click rate is you'll have some links embedded in your email. How many of those links have gotten clicked on? How many clicks have come in total is what click rate measures. Why is it doing that? Because you know if someone has clicked on your email, that means they have read through your email. If you've just sent out an email and they've opened it, they might have opened it by mistake, like, oops, this is not what I meant to open, and come out. So, open rate in itself is not an adequate measure of whether your campaign was a success or not. You need to know whether they read your entire email or not. And click rate is a good way to measure that, which means that you have to manage those clicks. You have to make sure that people click on the clear links, and you have to put in links that are relevant to them and also which measure whether your email campaign is a success or not. One of the thumb rules in creating your email content is to keep it as simple and short as possible. Your email is not a long novel, so you need to keep it really short. Also, communication gets better the shorter and tighter it is. So, use really simple words, keep it absolutely simple. Last week, you'll remember I told you, talk to me like I'm a not very smart 10-year-old. You can use the same principle when you're writing your email because big words do not impress anyone, they confuse people. Long sentences, again, don't impress anyone, they just annoy people because they're difficult to read. But emails that are short, tight, and easy to understand do their job really, really well. When I open the email, I just jump up and down. I don't even go left to right in a logical order, right? That means you've got to manage the way the recipient scrolls. Most of us, the first thing we do when we open an email is to scroll to the bottom to see how long the email is. So, this itself is an indication that you should keep your email as short as possible. My suggestion is to keep it not more than 1.5 screens long. Ideally, if you can fit it within one screen, that's great. If the recipient can see the end of your email when they open the email. But if you're not able to do that, make sure they don't have to scroll more than once. See, I can see the end of the email with just one scroll. Also, the eye tends to jump from place to place depending on a lot of things. So, here's an example. What did I do? I scroll to the bottom to see how long, come back, and ooh, there's a pretty girl. This is an actress I know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's a nice looking jacket. Things we love. I'll check it out later. Get it here. I'm going to click that. Come back here. In case you missed it, something unsettling. Last Jedi image. Who's this girl? And oh, that's a horse over there. That's interesting. Listen here. 12 Eiffel Tower facts. My friend just got back from France, and that's really cool. I want to follow these guys on Instagram. See what we did? We just jumped from left, right, up, down. So my eye is jumping from place to place. When you're designing your email, you can design it in such a way that you are actually guiding the eye rather than just throwing everything out there and hoping that the recipient's eyes will land on what you want them to look at. So, a few ways you can do that when you're designing your email is use boxes. Boxes are a really great way to highlight things. This is a box, even the gray is a box. Look at the use of color. Now, this catches my attention because it's a beautiful woman's face, but this also catches my attention because it's a big block of color with that red jumping off the screen. Headlines are also a way to highlight what's really important. So here's an example of a really great headline in case you missed it, and it's in bright red. Put your text in blocks. I don't think I need to even explain this. Even if your email is not as varied as this, even a simpler email like, let's say, the Mark Pittman email, make sure that your email is not one chunk of text, but you've got paragraphs and blocks. Even this one, which is text only, you can see there are blocks of text and there are questions in between which are in big bold letters. So they work almost like headlines. I can scroll through and say, I'm only jumping from headline to headline, question to question. So what's the investment until February 27? The price is $167. So you're letting your reader pick and choose what is relevant to them and drilling down there. comes to images, make sure that your images are not overwhelming the entire email. So let's go back to the Hello Giggles email since it has a lot of images. Notice how tightly it has been laid out. These pictures are really clear, even though they are really small. And this picture is big, but it still leaves enough room for other things on the side. How many of you are excited at the idea of using pictures in your email? I know I was very excited. So if you're wondering how to do that, next week I'm going to be showing you how to exactly do all this. Today I'm going to tell you what are the important things to do. And once you've figured those out, once you've assimilated all that, next week we'll do all that in a MailChimp demonstration. And MailChimp also measures all this for you, by the way. Your bounce rate, open rate, click rate, all of that. It'll also allow you to embed images and do all this formatting. So it's not like you're attaching the image like you would do in Gmail. But there are some things to keep in mind when you're using pictures. A picture can make an email look really good. A picture can also speak 10,000 words. We've all heard that saying, right? This means that if you use a picture, then you need to cut down the text. Because the minute you put in a picture, you're making your email heavier. Also, the minute you put your picture in, you're making the email longer because all this text gets pushed to the bottom or to the sides. And the longer your email is, the lesser are the chances that your recipient is going to read through it. So you need to balance out text and images very, very carefully. Make sure that your pictures have very few elements in them. Do not use crowded pictures. I'll show you an example. There are 3 pictures on the slide. Out of these 2 pictures, which one appeals more to you on the email? The up and down one. Which one catches your attention better? The one at the top, right? Because it's a simple picture. There's just a woman and it's only showing her back, which is a jacket with words on it. Whereas this one, there's a lot of stuff happening. There are people standing around, someone's carrying a broom, there are trees in the background. It's too cluttered. Your mind is automatically processing it and saying, I don't want to assimilate so much information. This is easier. Our minds are automatically looking for easier things to do, easier ways to process information, especially when there is such an information onslaught. So don't use crowded pictures because the recipient's eye will most definitely move away from it. Make sure you use pictures with good resolution. I don't think I need to explain this. This is fairly obvious, right? Watch the size of the picture because firstly, a very large picture can break the sidebar. Also, the larger a picture, the heavier the email gets. And what happens when the email is too heavy? It bounces. It bounces. No, it's not a hard bounce. It's a soft bounce. And finally, remember that your email is not a Christmas tree. It's a business activity. That means that anything you put in there, whether it's a picture or a word, has to justify its existence. Don't just throw in a picture because it looks pretty. Don't put in a landscape or a beautiful woman's picture or something like that just because to make your email look nice. The picture has to make sense for the email. It has to absolutely make sense for the email. If you put in a picture, then get rid of at least 10 to 15 words. And does your email make sense then? Or is it just a pretty picture to look at? You don't need to send people pretty pictures. Everybody has Google, so they can all use Google to look up beautiful pictures, right? So be very, very clear that you're picking a picture for relevance rather than beauty. And use clickable images because the eye is automatically drawn there. If someone chooses to click on your image, it boosts your click rate, right? Here are examples of really good pictures that people have used in marketing emails. You can see they fulfill all these criteria. Even when they have more elements, the focus is very clearly on the central element. They're good resolution, high resolution, quite pleasing looking. And they're very relevant because these appeared in an email about food products. Now, here's an example of an email that a participant in one of my earlier batches got and sent on to me. The left hand side is the top half of the email, the right hand side is the bottom half. Firstly, you can see how long it's taking even to load the screenshot. You can imagine how long it would have taken for the email to load. Okay, it's not even loading. Yeah, here it is. Take 30 seconds and tell me if you can figure out what this email is. Because both Ramachandran and I were both very confused when we saw this email. I was saying, can you figure out what this email means? Can you hear me clearly? Can all of you hear me clearly? Am I audible? GoToMeeting is showing that I'm completely clear. It usually would give me a message if. Okay. So, my request is that you close other programs other than GoToMeeting. If you still have connectivity issues, call tech support. They will be able to sort out this problem. I can't do anything at this end. I'm on a steady internet connection. Can I please request the people who cannot hear me to call tech support right now? Okay, so let's get back to the email. That's true, but it's very ambiguous, I think. What is this supposed to mean? There are 5 pictures. There are actually 6 pictures in this email, and 5 of them are cancelled out. My guess is they meant to say you will not win a mobile phone or a microwave or a laptop, but you will win a car. I think this is a really bad way to do it because it doesn't really seem to make any kind of sense. That's not the way to think about images. You don't just write down text and substitute each word for a picture. That's not using images for email. That's playing Pictionary. And you're not playing Pictionary when you're writing an email, right? So think about your text and images together, whether they're conveying a message in total. You'll notice something when I open my mails. You can't see anything here, right? Until I go and click on display images below. Now, this email doesn't have images, but let's say I open Endeavor Press. You only see this until I click on display images below. And then suddenly a lot of other things load. This is a function that a lot of recipients have enabled in their mailboxes. You can go into settings and put this up as well. Why do we do this? We do this firstly because it's a security measure. Because in the past, it used to be very easy for marketers and spammers to embed viruses in pictures. Secondly, pictures take a lot longer to load. They also take up more bandwidth. So if I'm checking this email on my, let's say something like my phone data services, I don't want to waste my data bandwidth by loading pictures. This means that you have no way of knowing how many of your people in your database will have this enabled or not. Your email has to make sense even if the images don't load. Have any of you seen emails that open and you see nothing in them? Completely empty except for maybe one X in the corner? This is what is happening. What they've done is the entire email is just one image, and all the text and everything is on that image. So you might see it in your promotions folder, in which case you have the do not display images first setting enabled. You might also find it in your spam folder because a lot of spam folders also consider this threatening emails. They don't see it as what bulk mailers do. So do not do this. Your email is a combination of text and images. Put in the text and images separately. Do not put your text on top of the image, because for everyone who loads your email without the images, they'll completely lose your message. Here's an example of a really great email. On the left is how it loads without images. On the right is how it loads with the images. Here's another one. This one is from Home Depot. You can see when it loads with images, there's this green colored sticker, there's the logo. There are two blocks which look like this one says yes, this one says no. When it loads without images, they've just got it in two different colors, so it still stands out. So the message is coming across whether you load it with or without images. Think of your images as makeup for your email. They can make your email look really good and take your email from being ordinary to spectacular, but the email still has to stand on its own even without the images. Make sense? Is that making sense? It's not two different designs, Yashpal. You've designed your email, it has some images. If I have the setting enabled, then it's loading it without the images. If I go and say display the images, then it'll reload the whole thing but with the images. That's all. Now take a look at this email. There's something very interesting going on with this email. Right above the picture, there are 4 links. Mark as important, report spam, unsubscribe, and view in browser. Which one of these links is jumping out at you? Report spam, right? Does anyone have any idea why a marketer would want to highlight report spam? Why would anybody want to do that? I can't think of any reason, which is why I think they've probably made a careless mistake. They might have meant to make mark as important in bold. Instead, they put report spam in bold. I don't know. Can any of you think of any other reason they would have put report spam in bold? How does report spam in bold show that it is genuine? I didn't understand what is a window. See, whoever is sending the email, whether they are a spammer or a marketer, they want you to open the email. All of us, we send emails, we want it to get opened. Oh, okay. I didn't think of that, but I don't. Okay, okay, maybe, but that seems very that's like a big. It's a very big risk, because the minute you see report spam, you're going to go up and click the spam button up here. You're not going to click on report spam here. Archana, how does report spam tell you that this is clean? This seems to me like saying, like the person who stole his friend's treasure, hid it in the ground, and then wrote on top of it, there is no treasure hidden here. That's fair, but it's a big risk to say report spam, because spam is like jail for marketers. And once you've gone, it's a lifetime imprisonment. Why would you tell anyone, send me to jail, right? So be very careful about what you're saying and how it is coming through. I'm going to come out of this presentation for a minute and get into the Word document. Does anyone here know what typography is? Typography is the study of fonts. Any idea why I'm typing this sentence? What is the relevance of this sentence? Absolutely right. It contains every single letter in the English alphabet. Can all of you see it clearly? I'm going to make it really big so you can see it. And now I'm going to put this in a font that you know already. A really common font called Arial. Everyone here is familiar with Arial, right? And the second line, I'm going to put it in another font that all of you are familiar with, called Times New Roman. And I'm going to make sure they're all the same size. They're all 12-point size. So the upper bit is in Arial, the lower bit is in Times New Roman. Okay, you know this. Now take a look at both the lines. I'm going to remove this. Let's remove this so you can see the size. Though they're both the same size, Arial is ending much further down than Times New Roman is. Right? They're both the exact same size. But Times New Roman is ending much earlier. Arial is stretching out a lot more because the spacing between the letters is different. The other thing is the letters also look different. Let's look at the Z. Can you see that the Z in Times New Roman has these little notches, whereas the Z in Arial doesn't have that? Is that visible to everyone? The same thing is true of every other letter. That's why I put them one below the other so you can see the differences. These notches are called serifs. So any font that has these notches is called a serif font. Any font that does not have the notches is called a sans serif font. Sans means without in French. So a font with serifs and a font without serifs. There are hundreds of fonts all over the world. There are hundreds of serif fonts and hundreds of sans serif fonts. Serif fonts are generally considered more modern. No, sorry, serif fonts are considered more traditional. Sans serif fonts are considered more modern. But there are serif fonts that are very good for business communication and some that are not. Similarly, there are sans serif fonts that are appropriate and some that are not. So Arial and Times New Roman are both fonts that are very good for business communication. Arial is a sans serif font. On the other hand, if you use a font like, now this is not a very good font for business communication. Can you see why? This is a font called Comic Sans. This is also a sans serif font. Can you see it looks very, very childish? It doesn't look serious, right? It doesn't look like I should take you seriously. It looks like you've written this with a crayon. Times New Roman is a really good font for business communication, but if you were to use, now this just makes for difficult reading, right? You might expect to see maybe just one single name, like a signature in this font, but not the entire email in this, no? Would you be able to read an entire book in this font? So think about the font that you're using, and every single email service provider, including MailChimp, will give you a choice of fonts. You can change fonts in the middle of your email as well. Think about the font you're using because the font can determine how long the text looks, how readable the text is, whether the text looks like you should take it seriously or not. You can also download several free fonts off the internet, but keep this in mind. Have you ever received an email which looks something like this? Everything in the email looks like that. That's happening because they have typed out the email in a font that you don't have on your system. So your system is not rendering those fonts. Now, when I say Arial or Times New Roman, everybody in the world has these two fonts on their systems. They come default loaded. But if I create or if I download a free font from somewhere and I send you an email with that, and you don't happen to have that font installed on your machine will not know how to read it. So it will give you garbage text like that. So once again, be very, very careful about what kind of font you're using. Don't get carried away with all the beautiful fonts that you see online, because if you find something and find that it's very, very rare, a lot of your audience may not even actually see the email because their systems are not loading the fonts. What can you do if you really want to use a very, very unusual font? Then you can do something like this. Let me show you. So this is a company called, exactly, yes, make it a picture. Grepolis has done exactly that. The Grepolis word is in a different font from the rest, and that itself is appearing in a picture. But be cautious over there. Remember, the message should come through even without pictures, and don't make the entire email a picture. Also, don't go overboard and turn every single word into a different font, because that makes for very difficult reading. If I were to make this Comic Sans and this, can you see how this is really difficult to read? It doesn't look good, even the sentence, right? Because it's got five different fonts in it. So when you're creating your email, use your fonts in order to bring out the most important bits, to highlight certain things, but don't go overboard there. Two to three fonts are generally enough for any email. So you can have your headlines in one font, you can have your body text in another font. Anything that you specifically want to highlight, you can have in the third font. Font options also include bold, underline, italics, everything that you're used to using on Microsoft Word. I have another video for you to watch. Go ahead, watch this, and come back and tell me when you're done. Again, a short video. Great. Okay. All of you have seen the video. Let's give it another few seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Everyone's back. Can I go ahead? All right, great. Thank you. Don't just throw it all in there. So, what are some things that we put into an email? Okay, here. We put in pictures, we put in text, we put in headlines, we put in buttons, we put in lists. Anything else that we put into an email? Links, right? These are pretty much everything that you put into an email. Don't just put them one after the other. Think about the order in which they come. Think about the layout. So here's an example from Dropbox, which is one of my favorite companies for their marketing emails. Dropbox uses a single column layout, which is a simple one above the other. They have a picture right on top, and then there is a text block. Under that is a button. I hope all of you know what buttons are. This is a button. It's not a picture. Buttons, by the way, load even without images. Even when images don't load, buttons always load. So under the button is another text block, and around the whole thing is a box. This is a very simple, easy to understand, easy to use kind of email. It's easy to draft, and it's easy for the recipient also to understand what's happening here. On the other hand, here's an email from Amazon. Amazon designs more complex emails. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. There's your logo, there is a little text block on the other side, there's an entire text block going from left to right. Under that is a picture, and on the right hand side is a text block under which is a button and a lot of space. There is a separator line after that, and then a whole series of images under which are links. Now, this could have come across as a very cluttered email, but it doesn't. Does anybody think this email is confusing? No, right? Even though they've actually done a lot more than the Dropbox email does. By the way, I'm not saying that you should do one of the two. I'm just saying that there are different ways to do it. Going completely simple is perfectly fine. Even a really important company like Dropbox prefers to go completely simple. Apple is another company that goes very simple. If you do decide to take a more complex layout and put in a lot of elements, then you have to be very aware and conscious of some design elements. Look at what they've done here. What do you think is the most important thing in the email? Where do they want you to click on the email? If you can only click on one thing, then what is it that they would want you to click on? The learn more button, right? So one thing is they've made it a button which makes it very clear, even though there are some five other links in the email. Secondly, the button is in bright yellow and it's right at the center of the email. And finally, it's surrounded by a lot of white space, which means it's very visible. So they've made sure that the most important part of the email is not getting drowned in other things. The picture next to it is really large, so it catches your eye, but it doesn't distract attention from anything else because it's very mild colors. The pictures that are below are very small, but they are in bright colors, so you do notice them. If the pictures below were in this color, then you would not even notice them. See what they're doing, see how they're managing to keep your attention going everywhere and yet do exactly what they want you to do. So you need to be very, very clear. If you're completely sure about your design ability, then go in for something like a multiple column. Else, I think it's easiest to stick to a simple single column layout. Here's how much difference a layout can make. This is part of an A/B test that was done. One group of people saw this email that had this box on the left hand side. Another group saw the exact same email, same picture, same text, but with this box on the right hand side. That's the only thing that was changed. And these were the results. The group that saw the right hand side had better revenue, 318% better results than the group that saw the left. This means that just switching it around from left to right hand from bottom to top made 318% difference in the results. So think very, very carefully about your layout, because layout can make a huge difference in whether your email gets seen as confusing or attractive. I just wanted to share this email. This is a really nice email, I think, because it's a very, very minimal layout. If you think about it only from a layout standpoint, they've got a text block, one more text block, a picture and a text block, a button, a separator, and then text block, text block, text block, text block, text block, and then a button. It's really simple, right? But it catches your attention. All the important things are in bright orange. There is one picture there, so it's not too heavy either. And overall, the color scheme is reasonably pleasing. It's not too jarring either. The orange is a little bright, but that's only for the things that they really want catching your attention. And finally, think about all the other links that you're going to put in an email. There is one very important link which is right at the center usually, which is like the learn more in the Amazon. That's your primary link. Your primary link is the most important link in the email. It's the reason the email got sent in the first place. Remember when I told you click rate determines whether your email got read or not? So the first most important link has to be whatever it is you want the recipient to have clicked on. And if they've clicked on that, then that tells you whether your email got read properly or not, read and understood. But in addition to that link, you might want other links as well. By the way, click rate counts all the clicks. But MailChimp will even tell you how many of those clicks. Let's say you got 10 clicks on your email. It will tell you how many of those clicks were on your primary link and how many were on which of the other links. You want to make sure most of them come to the primary link. The other links are just there to make your email interesting. These other links are called secondary links. Here are examples of secondary links. Secondary links appearing in the header. So this is an email from Amazon where the primary link is deals of the week, deals week, Black Friday. The secondary links say MP3, deals of the week, and see all departments. Similarly, in the earlier email, you can see over here, the secondary links would have been these ones at the bottom. Making sense? Make sure that your secondary links do not compete with your primary links. The reader should not be confused what the primary link is and click on some secondary link by mistake. You can also put secondary links in the footer. I would like all of you to do this in the upcoming week. Definitely read through the notes and go through the video. And every day when you're looking at your promotions folder, open these emails. Think about why you chose to open a particular email. And then open an email and analyze it from all these points of view that I'm telling you about. The fonts, the layout, the size, the text blocks, the buttons used, the kind of images used, where they put the links, all of these. Because all of these will really, really tell you how you should do your own emails better. And that brings us to the end of the first session. Back. Let's get started. Great. Thank you for coming back on time. Let's go through with this. I think we are a little ahead of time, which is great. So we can finish early then and get on with wonderful Saturdays, I'm sure, for everyone. So now that we've understood the key basics of what makes an email, a business email, let's drill down further and keep in mind that an email, in this case, is a business tool. So it needs to fulfill business objectives. Oops, before that. So what does a marketer usually do on email? What are some things that you've seen marketers do on email? What are the things that marketers use email to say? What are the kind of things that you see happening on email, marketing emails? offers, what else? Promotions, what else? What is a briefing? Marketing emails only. Notification, okay, new launch, right? All of these are ways to do one of three things. So there are only three major things that are happening on email. The first is starting a conversation where you're introducing yourself, the brand, the company, a new product. So this is an email that acquires the person's interest and starts a conversation. Let's never forget, an email is a conversation. So an acquisition email is an email that you send out in order to start a conversation. The second kind of email is one that goes in response to something that the customer said or did. Maybe the customer posted a complaint and you're responding to that. Maybe they asked a question, you're responding to that. Maybe they walked into your showroom and took a test drive and you're sending them a follow up email. So these are all part of a conversation, an ongoing conversation. The first was to start a conversation, the second one is to continue the conversation. These are transaction emails. And the third and the last is called a reminder email. These are emails that are sent out because customers being bombarded by so many different marketing messages tend to forget. Conversations tend to wear off. They tend to take a demonstration and then forget. They don't say anything after that. They tend to go to their carts, put items in their carts, leave it, and then don't come back for weeks after that. So, a reminder email is an email that is trying to revive the conversation. Think about all these different kinds of marketing emails you've received and see how each of them fits into one of them. So, acquisitions, responses, and reminders. Is there anything at all, any kind of marketing email you know that does not fit into one of these? So, all marketing emails are ways to either start a conversation, continue a conversation, or revive a dead conversation, right? Let's try and understand what the email is now. We are now going to drill down into a specific email. And one thing, now we are moving into the area of strategy, which means that strategy is something that entirely is driven by what you think and how you think. A strategy is only as good as how clear it is. And this is communication, which means you're trying to achieve something at the end of it, right? You're all marketers, you're trying to achieve something tangible at the end of it. To achieve that, you have to be very clear what you want. Only then will you be able to plan how to get what you want. Everybody agreed? Yes or no? So we're going to do this exercise. Actually, I'm going to close Word. I'm going to move to Excel. And I'm going to just open another. Let's go back to this. So let's pick out, I want all of you to think of any one marketing email that you would want to send out for the companies or brands that you represent. Take 10 seconds and think of any one such marketing email. We've just looked at the different kinds of marketing emails, right? Pick any one email, only one. Have you thought of it? And we're going to do this like an exercise. Has everyone got one? People, are you all with me? Have you conceptualized? Okay. What you're going to do is think about what is the business goal of your email. Now, let's be clear what business goal is. Your email is like an employee, it's working for you. You need to tell the email what to do. And for that, you have to be very clear what the email should do and can do. A business goal has to be very specific, take the business forward, in a tangible way and be measurable. It has to be all three of these things. So think about your business goal for a minute and see if it fulfills all these criteria, and then give me a business goal. Can I hear a few business goals for emails? You'll have to do this on your own. This is strategy, so there's no common formula for this. Okay, so Akhilesh says to bring 20% revenue. Let's address each one. Akhilesh, do you think an email, a single email, can build your revenue? It is definitely a business goal, but it's not something an email can do, right? Maybe an email can do certain things which will lead you to that. So maybe go back to the drawing board and think about what the email can do to reach that goal and make it specific and measurable. Let's look at Ronak's travel company drive people to my website. That's a tangible business goal and it's measurable. Get more views of my product. Where are the people going to see your product? Yash? Increase traffic on my website is the same as what Sri Arvind said. 50 views on my blog in the next 3 days. That's good. Generate inquiries. Okay, so Saurabh, can you think of how would an email generate inquiries? Drive store visit. Do you think a single email can drive a store visit, Sanjeev? When was the last time you saw an email and visited a store? What is the business goal of the email, Sanjeev? Apurva asks existing users to be more active on the platform. I don't really understand that. Can you make it more specific? Okay, Karunakar, how are you going to measure that? Look at the definition I've given you for business goal of an email. All right, Archana, so which one of those is it? Business goals have to be very specific. They cannot be this and that and that and that and maybe this. Yashpal, how would you measure that? Okay, Sargam says people get coupons messaged to them to the store. Does that happen on email? What you're saying sounds a lot more like something that will happen via an app or a SMS. When was the last time you saw a discount for an offline store? I can understand an e-commerce store, but okay. So I'm going to say then drive visits to. I don't really think so, Sargam, but getting callbacks for inquiries of products or services. Okay, I'm going to add that as a business goal. No, Yashpal, understand my question. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying what is your business goal, and if you scroll up, you'll see what I mean by business goal. I'm not asking how you'll do it. I'm asking what your email is required to do. We'll get into how later. Hemant, again, same thing for you. What is it that you want your email to do? So Apurva wants people to come back to website, which means Apurva, your business goal is also number one, right? Drive people to website. Sanjeev wants people to book test drives. Is that right? Okay. So I'm going to say uh, book demonstrations. Vinay, please look at what I said about a business goal. A business goal has to be specific and measurable. How are you going to measure wanting to inform people? How are you going to measure brand awareness? How are you going to get an email to increase your sale? When was the last time you clicked on an email and bought something? No, I get that, Yashpal. Answer what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. How are you going to measure that? So if someone clicks on the product, that means they are aware of it. Also, how do you know that they are aware of it because they clicked on your email? How do you know that it's not because of advertising somewhere else or because they just landed up on your website? Measurable means that you can measure that this email did this and it did this well. Okay, we have four business goals here. Can you see the difference between the goals that I've listed out here and the ones that some of you are proposing? No, Sanju, that's not a business goal at all. That's not measurable in any way. And that's not specific at all. Archana, that's not the answer to my question. My question was, what is your business goal? What is it that your email is required to do, right? So stay with me. You have your business goal. We've listed out, yes, a goal has to be tangible, Hemant. That's exactly what I said, right? It has to be specific, measurable, and take your business forward in tangible ways. I've typed that out in the chat window also. Okay, everybody, listen to what I'm saying and read, please. No, let's not get into this. See, I think some of you are not listening to me or reading what is there. That's just a waste of your time. So please listen to what I'm saying. We've got four tangible business goals. Every single one of these is tangible. Every single one of them takes the business forward. Every single one of them is measurable. Can all of you see that? Can all of you see that? Yeah? The next question is, what is it that you want the reader to do? So, what does the reader need to do in order for your email to achieve this goal? So, your email is supposed to achieve this goal. You need the reader to do something. Email is a conversation, right? So, you need the reader to do something. That's not what I'm thinking of. So, click, okay, fine. But what is it that will happen when they click? What is it that you're asking them to do by clicking? Let's look at the first one. You want to drive people to the website. What is that action? So, what is it that the reader needs to do in order for you to fulfill that objective, that goal? Archana, listen to what I'm saying. The business goal is drive people to website. What does the reader need to do for you to achieve that goal? Visit your website, right? It's not complicated. What do you need the reader to do? You need them to visit the website. Are you all understanding? People, are you with me? Are you understanding? Let's try the second one. Views on the blog. What do you need the reader to do? Open the blog. No, it's not read the blog because the business goal is views on blog. It's not blog comments. It's not blog readers. It's only views. Views is different from visitors. You have to be very specific about this. You will get what it is you're planning for. So if your plan is one, then you'll only. Okay, but that's not what was said earlier, Sargam. And an email cannot ensure that a person stays in the store. That only the store can ensure. An email cannot guarantee that a person will stay on the blog. That only the blog will guarantee. No, 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 no. Okay, all of you, you have to stay with the exercise that I'm doing. Okay, don't give me other business goals. We've already decided on our business goals. Our third business goals are getting calls backs for the product. So what do you need the reader to do? Call on number. Now, realistically, I should tell you that this may be a hard thing to actually get. It might make more sense to get their contact information and say, we will call you. Isn't that what all of us are used to now as customers? When was the last time you called a marketer? The marketers are saying, we'll call you. But they need our phone numbers and permissions for that, right? So, can we refine that reader action? What do you need the reader to do then? Share contact, share phone number, right? Share a phone number, fill form. And finally, book demonstrations. What do we need the reader to do? Complete booking form or sign up for event. Clear? Now we've got our agenda in place. This is before we actually create the email. Now that we know what we want each email to do and we want what we want the reader to do, can we now plan out how to do this? So you need to do your email planning this way. You can't create an email because you want to send out an email. You need to be very clear why you want to send the email and what it needs to achieve. Because if you don't do that, then how are you going to tell, how are you going to make sure the email achieves the goal? So your goal has to be in mind before you start planning out how to achieve the goal, right? Now let's look at how we are going to achieve this goal. There are two things that go into an email in order to achieve that goal. The first one is something that I like to call selling messages. Selling messages are anything that convince your reader to help you fulfill your goal. Did that make sense? Convince the reader to get to help you fulfill your goal. Anything that you're doing to convince the reader is a selling message. So a selling message introduces the sender, it sets the context for the email, and it convinces the reader to complete the action required. What are some kinds of selling messages that we've seen? What are all the ways in which marketers convince you to take a step further? You're going to have to come up with this on your own because all of you are customers as well as marketers. What are the things that you tell your customers in order to convince them? Offers and schemes are selling messages. Sanjeev, where is the selling message in that? How are you convincing me to book the test drive? What are the ways in which you woo the customer? What are the things that you can say in order to get them to favor you and get them to feel positively towards you? Show readers how they will benefit. So can you point out some tangible examples of that, Harsh? Okay, so differences, comparisons, yes, that's definitely a selling message. Positive highlights on how we are better than the others, definitely a selling message. Unique features, so product features, offers, benefits. How about testimonials? Those are selling messages. Customer testimonials. How about exactly referral programs? How about expert recommendations? Also selling messages, right? So, what are we doing here? We are basically breaking down the anatomy of an email so that you can perfect each one. Now, when it comes to selling messages, you absolutely need to have at least one selling message, otherwise, you have no email. You cannot just tell the reader, you have to do this. Most people will just be, okay, why should I do that? Or why will I even be interested in listening to you? I'm just going to shut the email. I'm not even going to tell you, convince me. So you have to convince the person before they even think of such a question of why should I do this? All of these are ways in which marketers and we are going to convince our customers. Keep in mind, you should not have too many selling messages. If you have multiple selling messages, if you have more than, say, two selling messages, it's going to confuse the reader. Also, it's going to make you look desperate. And then the credibility will be at stake. If I tell you, my product is the best and I'm offering you a discount and all your friends are using it, experts all recommend it. And if you buy it today, then you will get a free offer as well. Don't you think that's overselling? And then if I tell you, and you know what, you can get the first 10 free, you're going to assume that there is something wrong with my product. That's a case of too many selling messages. So be very clear what your selling message is. Stick to one or two at most. Making sense? Now let's go and determine the selling message for these. So my business goal for this email is to drive people to my website. How am I going to convince them? Give me one selling message for this. Any one selling message. How am I going to convince people to come to my website? Okay, if I have a free gift, gifts or discounts. I'm personally not a big fan of gifts or discounts because it always feels like bribery. And you're spending more and you're earning less as the marketer. Is there any other way you can convince people? Good, interesting content, right? Why do people visit websites? They don't visit websites in order to get freebies and gifts. Sanjeev, if I told you check my website to get details, would you take the time to do that? I'm giving you a random website name called Jasmine Rose. Are you interested? It's my job to make you interested, right? That's what a selling message is. If I just come and tell you visit my website for more, you don't know anything else, right? Five trends you should try this summer. So, relevant content, relevant, interesting content. That could be a selling message. Relevant and or interesting content. That's a good selling message. Let's look at the second one. Views on blog. How do I increase views on blog? Same, right? Oops, sorry. How about the third one? Get callbacks for product. How do I convince people to call me back for my product? Offers. Do you have anything other than offers or discounts? Offers, promotions, and discounts all make you earn less because you're spending more on it. Featured benefits, right? How the product benefits you. How about the fourth one? Book demonstrations. Which one is that for, Akhilesh? Number 3 or number 4? Okay, explain new features, ask them to test it. Okay, you could have exactly, it's an event, so maybe you could pull in people that way. Let's try that as a different one because what Akhilesh is saying is the same as the third one, which also works, but let's try a different one. Selling message is celebrity spotting. Making sense? Everybody with me so far? Now that you've got your selling message in place, you can figure out exactly how you want to write and put in images for it, right? If you want to send an email which is supposed to get you more callbacks, and your email is going to contain details about how the product benefits the customer, it's a lot easier for you to figure out what to say in the email. Right or wrong? Right? The selling message, if it does its job right, the reader is going to read it and say, yes, I agree. And at that juncture, you have to catch them. You have to get them to click so that you get the click rate and you know that they have agreed. What is it that they should be clicking on? What is the action they should take? This is something called a call to action. A call to action is an instruction to the audience to provoke an immediate response. Quite simply put, a call to action should be the answer to, if I'm the reader and I've read through your email and I am convinced your selling messages did a great job, and I say, great, what do I do next? Your call to action should be the answer to that. Call to action, a few rules. Call to action has to be action word or verb. It has to be two to three words max. It should be specific and create a sense of urgency. Can we think of some calls to action, different calls to action, which fit this? Get started now is not specific at all. Can we be more specific? And here's why you need to be specific. You don't need to say click. It's more than 3 words. You don't need to say click. People already know that they're supposed to click on a call to action. Vinay, is that 2 to 3 words? Avail now is good. Avail now works. Visit website instead of go to website, that works. Fill form works. I'll tell you why it needs to be very specific. Remember how we opened the emails? We did this, right? And this. This is what I did, right? That means I'm not even waiting to read the selling message. My eye is jumping to look for the call to action because as a reader, I know that the call to action is what the email wants me to do finally. If I go back and read the email, I'm basically saying, I'm interested, now convince me. So, this call to action has to be specific. If the call to action just says no more or get started, I'm going to say, okay, you know what? I'll have to read the email to find out what this is about. I'm not going to do that. That is the reason why your call to action has to be super specific. Make sense? Is that making sense? The order that most people follow in reading emails is they read the subject line, they glance at the sender name and open the email, they jump to call to action, and then they go and read the rest of the email. That's how most of us do it, right? Subject line, glance at sender name, open email, look for call to action, read remaining. If interested, click if convinced. Is this making sense? Isn't this how all of us do it? So that means your call to action has to also take them forward. Now let's come back and come up with calls to action for this. So number one, drive people to website. I'm going to do that by highlighting interesting content. So what's the call to action? I'm the reader and I say, okay, this sounds really interesting. So Harsh, I open the email and before I read everything else, I just see a button that says find more information. Does that tell me anything? Or does it make me think, oh God, I'll have to read the entire email in order to understand what's going on here? Exactly. So here's a tip. Your call to action comes from this, what you need your reader to do. In this case, it's exactly the same thing. Go to website. What's the second one? Business goal is views on blog. You need the reader to open blog and this selling messages, relevant content. What's my call to action? Read article. The third one is get callbacks for product. You need the reader to share a phone number. Selling messages, this product benefits you. Call. Call now. Or it could also be share, fill in form, share contact info. Right? And finally, book demonstrations. What's my call to action? Book now. Good. Or sign up. Very good. I think all of you are getting this. Is this completely clear? Can you see how if you have this plan laid out, then creating your email becomes really simple? This is your roadmap for your email. Now you can go in and think about how to bring out these selling messages best, what kind of pictures, what kind of subject line, and so on and so forth. Right? These are different calls to action. Now keep in mind your call to action is the most important thing in the email, which means the call to action has to be the primary link. That means it has to be super visible. Here's an example of the MailChimp email. Activate your account is very specific. It's 3 words and it tells you immediately, even without reading the email, it tells you that this email is about activating an account for MailChimp. It's also very visible because it's in bright blue. Use buttons rather than links for calls to action. I'll show you how to embed buttons. It's really very easy. Buttons will load even when images don't load. Plus, buttons are more visible than text. When you finish designing your email, step back from the screen and scrunch up your eyes so your visibility is low. If the call to action button is still jumping off the screen, then you know that you've done a good job. This is what it should look like. So you know this blue is standing out. Make sure you're putting a lot of space around the call to action button so that it's visible. Here's an example of an email from Amazon. I want all of you to read this email and tell me what is the call to action. No, the call to action is very specifically review this product, right? It's not review. Review is this. It's review this product. Is anybody in disagreement? It's this, right? This is the call to action. This is jumping off the screen, isn't it? What do you think is the business goal of this email? Get feedback about the product? That's business goal, right? Now let's look at another kind of email sent by the same company. What is the call to action in this email? Ratings. And what do you think is the business goal for this email? Feedback. Now the question is, why would the same company send out two different kinds of emails doing the same thing? Why would you employ two people to do the same thing? Are you getting my question? Everybody's agreed, right? Both these emails are trying to do the same thing. Both of them have the same business goal. So why are they sending two different kinds of emails? Any thoughts? Absolutely. Like Apurva says, different involvement of customers. There are customers who will not want to spend all that time visiting the website and writing a long essay type review. But if you give them this and say, no, listen to what I'm saying, Karnakar. My question was, they want to get feedback. Why would they do two different emails that do the same thing? How does two different emails increase chances of engagement, Ronak? Think about what's happening. It takes a lot of effort to plan out and design two different kinds of emails. Why not send out this email to everybody? It's a lot easier to do that, right? It's a single email. Once you've designed the email, you just hit send and it goes out to 50,000 people. A B testing is not a strategy. A B testing is done before everyone gets the email to check which is, it's testing, right? It even contains the word testing in the name. It's like lab testing before you finalize the product. Why would they send out, take the effort of sending two different kinds of emails? Because there are customers who will not respond to this email because they don't want to waste time going to the website and writing a long review. But if you send them this, they'll immediately click on this because they can give a single rating here. On the other hand, there are customers who will not respond well to this. I'm one of those people. I'm a book lover. I go through at least a book every week. And if I receive this, I'll say I can't give it a 1 to 5 rating. The plot line was really good. The humor was not good. I didn't like the ending, but I really liked the characters. So I'm someone who will respond very well to an email like this. The only difference in these two is the call to action. Can you see how the click rate is increased if you understand your audiences? You're varying the call to action for different audiences. So for customers who respond better to this kind of email, they'll get sent only emails like this. Customers who respond better to this get sent emails like this. And both groups maximizes the click rate. Making sense? Just by varying the call to action. Okay, this example has not come up. If you have a very long email and the reader has to scroll, I don't have an example of one such. If you have a really long email, you can repeat the call to action. This is a lot like if you're in a really large store and you browse all the things, and it's a large store like say Shoppers Stop. You're walking around and you find something that's really interesting. You should not have to go searching for a salesperson. The minute you decide that you want to buy something, a salesperson should be within eyesight. A salesperson should materialize the minute you decide you want to buy. And this is true even more so of email. Because on an email, if I decide, as the reader, I decide I want to go ahead and I cannot figure out how to go ahead, I will not waste time. I'll just come out of the email because there's someone else who can do this better for me. So, as the marketer, you want to maximize that. The call to action is like that salesperson who comes up and says, "Yes, madam, can I bill your products?" So your call to action should be visible wherever on the email the person is. If your email is so long they have to scroll and the call to action is scrolled out of sight, repeat it again at the bottom. So this call to action is repeated at the bottom. This one is a text link. Ideally, it should be buttons. This is why if you see some long emails, marketing emails, you'll see the call to action repeated again. You'll see book now happening again. Groupon is one of those. Groupon has see offer, see offer, see offer, and so on and so forth. And see more coupons. What happens when the reader clicks on the call to action? They have to go somewhere, right? They get taken to something that's called a landing page. Your landing page, I'm going to skip ahead. Your landing page is the logical next step in your marketing process. The minute they have clicked on the link, you know that the email has done a good job, but you don't want to lose them there. Your landing page is like that cash counter, the billing counter in a shop. So you have done a great job in luring people into the shop. That's your subject line. You've got excellent products there. So you've done a great job with your selling messages. You've been there at the right time to say, "Okay, madam, can I bill your product?" That's your call to action. And the person has said, "Yes, bill it now." Now you take them to the billing counter and there's no one at the billing counter. What's going to happen? The customer is going to turn and walk away, right? Or if the billing counter says that there is no electricity, sorry, we cannot run the billing machine. You're going to lose them, right? All that effort has been wasted. So your landing page is the crucial ending point to seal off this deal, all the work. Make sure that your landing page mirrors the look of the email. Otherwise, people are going to think they landed up somewhere else. Make sure you're locking people in and don't waste their time, because on the internet, nobody has any time to waste. Your landing page also makes everything trackable. Just like your open rate and click rate are trackable, your landing page is a web page, which means using Google Analytics or any one of the other analytics tools, you can track exactly where they came from. So if it's your website, you can track how many of these visits came from just Google ads, how many of them came from the email, how many of them came from Google searches. So that will tell you how efficient your email marketing program is. Everybody with me so far? Okay, I'm going to jump back and show you what I skipped through. So here's an example of an email that I received. This comes from Canva, which is a design company. Canva offers design services for websites, etc. I'm going to read the email. It says, "Introducing the first ever Canva Cup. Canva is now available in 7 languages. Celebrate with us by entering the first ever Canva Cup. How to enter? Simply upload your design to social media and hashtag it hashtag Canva Cup. If you are uploading it to Facebook, make sure to make it a public image. Here's how. Then there's a picture. Our judging panel will select the winners and finalists for below, and there is also a People's Choice Award. Most liked post wins. For prizes and categories you can win and more details, click here. You can enter right now. Entries close 28 June 2016 at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Click here for details. What was the business goal of this email? I don't understand what engagement means. Okay, I'm not even going to look at words like that because we've agreed that there's going to be no jargon. What is the business goal of this email? Participation in the contest, right? Getting people to participate in the contest. So, what should the call to action have been? This is a bad call to action. What should the call to action have been? Sign up for Canva or design your Canva, right? Sanju, I just said click here for details is a bad call to action. Can all of you hear me clearly? Because I feel like I'm saying this and repeating it. Participate in contest is a good call to action. It's specific. Now here's what happened when I clicked on the call to action. Okay, voice is cracking. When I clicked on the call to action, this is the landing page it took me to. It says enter the Canva Cup, help us celebrate Canva's launch in 7 new languages, create a design, share it, Canva Cup for a chance to win. I scrolled down and it had this. Do you see anything in these two pages that was not on the email? Can you see anything on the page? Categories. Okay, maybe categories, but this was at the bottom of the page. Let's go back to the email. I don't think the email was very well designed. Can you see why? Any ideas why? I don't think this is a good email. Can we analyze why? No, this is a picture. Yes, the font is terrible. It's very difficult to read. Also, it's all kinds of confusing things happening. There's something about Canva Cup, how to do it, prizes categories are mentioned here. Formatting is really bad. The order in which they put it, it's very confusing what is supposed to be done. A lot of this need not have been mentioned. They could just have said, Canva Cup, there is a contest. You just need to upload a design and win great prizes. Participate now. And clicking on that could have taken us to this page. Or if they've chosen to say all this on the email, then where should the landing page have gone? This, by the way, at the very bottom, right here, in small letters, it says create my design. Exactly. So this create my design should have been right here on the email. And wherever this goes to should have been the landing page. Can you see that? They wasted one additional step there. So landing page is super important. You really have to think about what the ideal landing page should be. Shall we try and identify what the landing pages for these emails should be? So here's an email that highlights relevant content and the call to action is go to website. What should the landing page be? Website homepage, right? No, it should not be website homepage. If you're highlighting interesting content, it should go to the web page where that content is. Exactly. Because otherwise, you're pushing the customer into the store and saying, you find your way. You go to the website, and my website has hundreds of pages, you go and find it. The customer is just going to say, okay, I can't handle this, and they're going to come out of it. You've lost them again. How about this one? Same, right? That particular article. How the product benefits you, call now or share contact info. What should the landing page be? There are two calls to action here. So call now, what should the landing page be? If the call to action says call now and I click on it, where should it take me? Maybe an auto dialer like Amazon has. Features page. Sanjeev, if I tell you click here to call now and you click on that and it takes you to the features page, isn't that a mismatch? No, doesn't that make sense to you? Okay, so form to fill. That's for share contact info. What about call now? So if you say call now, you're going to have to figure out how your landing page is going to be. Okay, maybe a dialer with a phone number. It's possible to do that. Place an internet call. So you have to think very carefully about what you put as your call to action, because you have to be able to come up with a landing page that is the logical next step. Clear? So maybe call now is not as good. Click for callback is the call to action. I'm asking what the landing page should be. Are you getting the difference between landing page and call to action? If there is one more button there, then why do you have an email? Then you're doing exactly what Canva is doing. Sending an email, then saying click here for details, and then click one more button here. Okay, what's the last one? What should the landing page here be? Right? We are all clear on this? So your call to action is super important and it has to lead from the selling message. It also has to be the logical step before the landing page. If you cannot come up with a good landing page, then maybe that call to action is not right. That means then you need to go back and think about, is it possible for your reader to do this? Now come back and think. Those of you who are saying awareness, what kind of call to action will you be able to put for awareness generation? What kind of landing page will you be able to put? You can't, right? That's why I'm saying you can't do that on email. Remember spam filters? Spam filters check against patterns of known spammers. You need to make sure your email is crossing both of these. Here's how you do it. Make sure that your recipient doesn't look confused like this. Use short sentences because a lot of spammers, their writing is very complicated. They use bad English, poor grammar, long sentences, and long words. So you defeat that by using short sentences. Make sure there is a balance between the number of links and the number of words. The Amazon email had 7 links, and there were definitely more than 7 words. So the number of words in the email should always be more than the number of links in the email. And this includes all your secondary links, primary links, call to action, everything. Avoid clutter. And by clutter, I mean not too many pictures, not too many words. Keep it easy to read, lots of spacing between everything. Use the right font. Avoid jargon terms. Avoid crowded pictures. I'm going to share this with you, the link to read. Think about your reader. Remember always that this is a very personal medium. It's not a mass medium. You have to try and personalize it as much as possible. So here's a Dropbox email that starts off with, "Hi Corey, do you have more than one computer?" Instead of just saying hello reader or hi, they're actually using the reader's name. We've all received messages like this, right? I receive emails that say, Ramya, this. Thank you for shopping at this, Ramya. That's a great way to personalize your emails. Here's another one, which is a promotional email for a book called Contact Leads, Generate Leads using Facebook. And the call to action is download. Download this book. It starts off with the person's name, reader's name, hi Dennis. It also says your Facebook page has this many fans. If you're wondering how to do this, it's not very difficult to do this. You can personalize quite easily if you have MailChimp and if you have a database. But you need to think about where all you can use the information you have about your readers for personalization. What happens when your reader does not want to read your emails anymore? You cannot force them to stay. You know what happens if you try and force them to stay? So, here's one last video for all of you to watch. This is the last one for today's session. Watch it and come back and we'll talk through it. I agree. I think it's amazing. I think it's an excellent illustration of what is happening. Uh, Email is an amazing medium and really easy to use. And I think it's a good wake up call for marketers like that to not fall into the trap of thinking it's only a technology. Let's not forget it is about human communication. There's no good reason that he should have gotten an email that was not of interest to him. And there's absolutely no reason he should have received the emails after he unsubscribed from them and continue to receive those auto emails. So don't fall into these traps. Keep in mind at all points of time, keep it simple. This is a human being at the other end. There are human beings at the other end. You cannot force them to do things. And if you force them, it's only going to backfire on you. And as in this case, it's going to make the marketer look really bad. The two most common reasons why people unsubscribe is because emails are not relevant to them or because they are too frequent, which is also a question of relevancy. This means when you're planning your emails, never mind all the other things about how pretty it is and all of that. The primary thing is to ask yourself whether it is of interest and relevance to the customer. That's why that entire exercise of selling messages, because it doesn't matter what you want to say. What can you say that makes the reader want to read and take the next step? You cannot force them to. You cannot force them to. You cannot assume because it's of interest to you, it will be of interest to them. And if they decide that it's not relevant, you cannot force them to stay. The unsubscribe button is a legal requirement on all marketing emails. In fact, if you use MailChimp, MailChimp will not let your mails go through without putting in the unsubscribe option in that. That means you have to make it as easy as possible for the reader to unsubscribe if they want. And you have to trust that you have created an email that they will not want to unsubscribe from, rather than saying, I will not let them unsubscribe. Don't do this either. This is a cartoon I created a few years ago because I clicked on an unsubscribe button. It took me to a page where I was asked to fill in details. And then I was sent one more email saying, are you sure? Then I had to click on one more button to confirm that I wanted to unsubscribe. Then they wanted my feedback. Then they sent me one more email saying, this is your feedback. We are going to take action on it. Are you sure you don't want to receive emails from us? Then I had to go to click on one more email to say, yes, I'm positive. And then they sent me a fourth email saying, we will not send you any more emails. Now, that to me was actually harassment. They should not have made it so complicated for me to get out. And most other readers would not go through that process. They would just hit spam. And that's really bad for the marketer, right? If someone unsubscribes from you, fine, they unsubscribe. But if they mark you as spam, then you can never contact them after that. So don't make it difficult, unnecessarily difficult, and hope to retain readers that way. Here's an example of an email that said safely unsubscribe, which was a nice way to put it. A study done, they asked people if you click to opt out and you're presented with an option to opt down, that is, change the frequency or the topics, would you choose to remain? 41% of them said they would choose to remain. Now, you have to use this very, very carefully. Clearly, a person who's unsubscribing doesn't necessarily want to leave you completely. At least 40% of them are saying that we just want to receive fewer emails. Or maybe we want only one, two, three things rather than 10 things. Try and understand them, but also be cautious about how you do this. This is an email that I received from about.com, and when I clicked on unsubscribe, it took me to this landing page which said, thanks, your email has been changed. Now I asked to unsubscribe, I didn't ask to change my email. And then under that, it gave me the topics. And at the bottom of it, in very small words, it said unsubscribe from all email. This is a bad way to do it because it seemed to me like they were lying. The button said unsubscribe and the landing page says change email. Now, this is not great. On the other hand, here's another marketer who did a really nice job. When I hit unsubscribe, the page in very large letters said, we are sorry to see you go, and my email address was there. On the left, it said, if you would like us to send email less often, we can surely do that. And there was a button to help me opt back in. If you would prefer not to receive any emails, you can unsubscribe here, unsubscribe. So this was simple, easy to navigate, and I didn't feel like they were deliberately trying to make it difficult for me to leave. Last thing I want to tell you about prime visibility areas on an email. The top left corner of an email is very important for one simple reason, because it falls under something called the preview pane. What's the preview pane? The preview pane is something that's there in every mail client. Even Gmail has the preview pane option. If you go to this middle drop down and click on vertical split, it splits your screen into two halves. The left half will show you all your emails. The right half will give you a preview of the email. So if I click on this, it shows me the left hand side of the email, and then I can scroll left and right and top and bottom in it. So it gives the reader a chance to peek into the email without actually opening the email. I can also get a horizontal split, which means it will do up and down. So the preview pane lets me look at the top half or the left half of the email. That means this top left corner is very, very important for anyone who might be using the preview pane. Why are people using the preview pane? They are trying to decide whether they should open the email or not. And remember open rate? Open rate, at the moment you only have subject line and the sender name. But with the preview pane, you're getting, with those people who have preview pane, you're getting the opportunity to convince them a little more. A little more space is being given to you to explain your message. So use it adequately. Put in at least your logo in the top left corner. Don't center align the logo because then it'll vanish. Put in the top left corner. Make sure you use something there. This one starts the text with welcome. These two brands have the logo of their brands. Mobile phone is changing the way we are doing all of email business today. And one of the most important things about mobile phones are, because they're small screen, visibility is completely changing. That means you can't cram in too many things because it's difficult for the reader to read and absorb all those things. Also, a mobile phone is what we call a portrait layout, whereas our computers are what we call landscape layout. Is everyone familiar with portrait and landscape layouts? Do you know what I mean by portrait and landscape? Okay, that's great. I'm going to take 2 minutes after this to explain mobile, after which we can go into the interactive session. Are we ready to leave feedback? I'm going to share the link for feedback. Please take a minute to fill the form and come back and let me know when you're done. I've shared the link in the chat window. Thank you. Let's wait till everyone finishes. Are we done? Shall I go ahead? Is there anyone still filling in the form? I'll wait if you are. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Now, the mobile phone screen, here's some stats about usage of mobile phones. More than 50% of people are looking at their email on mobile, and 70% of them are saying if it doesn't look good on mobile, then they'll just delete it. They'll not wait to read it on the desktop. That means that you need to be designing your emails for mobile first rather than desktop first. There are a few things you can do. It's a much smaller platform and it's a lot more tightly constrained. The patience that people show you on a desktop, they'll not even show you that much patience on a mobile phone screen. Think about the way in which we look at our promotions folder on. I find it very irritating to look at my promotions folder on my email app. Though I do. I check my email on my phone much more than I do on my computer. So that means that that's high concentration time for me. But also, I'm going to be a lot more judgmental and strict about what I allow myself to read. So, as the marketer, we've got to be a lot more sensitive and try and give the readers something more. One very important thing that you can all do is include a link to view the email online. I'm going to show you this. Now, there's a reason why a lot of people use this. A lot of emails are not mobile optimized. That means when people open the email on their mobile phone, they have to scroll left, right, and up and down. Have all of you seen that? A lot of marketing emails are like that. Yeah, left and right and up and down. It's very hard to read. But the mobile phone's browser is mobile optimized. That means if you click to see the view the email online, you'll see it in that one little screen. It's optimized for mobile. So a lot of promotional emails now contain that. See, I'm opening this. I'm going to get out of the preview pane. See, now this link has the entire email in the form of a web page. If you click on it, you'll see the same email I'm seeing. This entire thing will render much better on a mobile phone in a browser than it does as this email. If I see this on a mobile phone, I'll see it like this. I'll have to scroll left and right and up and down. But if I see it as a web browser, web page, I'll see it a lot more easily. So make sure to include this link. MailChimp will do this for you. Every time you design an email on MailChimp, it designs a web page version of the same and it embeds a link. So if you're using anything other than MailChimp, make sure you use this. The one good thing about mobile apps is that mobile apps display email differently from how desktop browsers display email. This is how your mobile app screen looks. The topmost line is the sender's name. The second line is the subject line, and under that, there's something that we call pre-header text. The pre-header text basically picks up the topmost text of an email. So it's something like this. These kind of emails, the pre-header text says forward this email, view this email online, click here to view in your browser, to view this email, and so on and so forth. It's just picking up the default text. But if there was a way by which you could embed that pre-header text, then you would have that much more space to convince the reader to open your email. And here are some examples of emails that have used their pre-header text. Lumosity, happy 4th of July, spark something special, upgrade to Lumosity Premium, save 35%. Litmus, win your way to email design, 16 free tickets up for grabs. South Florida Federal 2-day car sale event, join us June 19 to 20th. I'll show you how to embed pre-header text also next week when I show you MailChimp. Very quickly, what are the things that we've looked at for mobile? We've looked at view email on web. We've looked at preview pane. We've looked at pre-header text, right? The last thing that you can do is, if you have the time and money to design it that way, you can actually design your emails to be more compatible for mobile phones. And that's your mobile email design. The first and simplest kind is to design it in a skinny design, which means basically you just keep your email really thin. You give it a portrait layout, and the rest of it you just give it a dark background or some blank background. So a skinny design is when you design it for about 500 pixels wide only. That way, at least when the reader sees it on their mobile phone, they'll not have to do back and forth. They'll just have to make sure it aligns with this on their screen. You're losing a lot of space with this, however, but this is the simplest thing you can do. The next level of thing you can do with design is something called a scalable design. In a scalable design, you're designing your email in blocks. Can you see each of these is a pale blue block? These blocks are designed so they are mobile aware. That means the email itself is aware of when it is being viewed under a mobile phone or when it is being viewed under a desktop. When it is viewed under a mobile phone, these boxes tend to shrink. When it's viewed on a desktop, they tend to expand. So look at the picture of the plane. It's actually a lot longer in the desktop version and smaller in the mobile version. Look at the Facebook logo. It looks stretched in the desktop version. So a scalable design is when you're designing it to scale from 426 pixels, that's for mobile, to about 630 pixels for desktops. You have to make sure that the pictures are the kind that don't look odd if they're stretched, and also the headings and the fonts are such that they look equally legible whether you're reading them in a stretched format or a compressed format. The third kind is even better, and this is something called a responsive design. And many of you would have heard of responsive designs. Responsive design does a lot of things. This is the desktop email, this is the mobile email. The desktop email has a picture of a beach. Under that, it's got 3 to 4 lines of text. It's got a small call to action button in red. Under that, the screen splits into two halves. On the left is a picture of a taxi. On the right is a picture of a pair of legs running through the water. Each of them has about 7-8 lines of text under them. When you see it on a mobile phone, you see the beach. Under that, you see the text box is much smaller. It's got 7 lines of text now. The call to action is much bigger. The screen is not splitting in half, but the taxi picture is now the same size as the beach picture. And the pair of legs running through the water, that picture has now come under the taxi picture. So, what are all the things that are happening? It's adapting. So, the images are resizing. The layout is changing depending on which screen it's viewed under. The text is reflowing. What is reflowed text? So, look at this column, C column. If I do this, this is what your screen looks like, your mail looks like on a mobile phone. I have to scroll left and right to see the entire thing, right? I'm missing out some parts of it. On the other hand, this was an option, then depending on how large my screen is, it would either expand or flow over to the next line depending on the size of the screen, the width of the screen. That's the reason why there are only 4 lines over here and there are about 8 lines over here. Because in this case, the width of the screen is getting cut off here, so the lines are moving to the sentence is moving to the next line. Make sense? That's called text reflow. Any idea why the call to action button is changing in size? There's a very simple reason for this. Why does the mobile phone's call to action button look so much bigger? Yes, but why? Why does it need to be bigger on a mobile phone? What do you use to click on a call to action on your desktop? You use your cursor, right? A cursor is a very sharp pointed thing. Exactly. On a mobile phone, you use your finger. Is your finger as sharp and pointed as your cursor? It's much bigger. That's why your call to action is that big, so that it can catch your finger's touch. So that's how good a responsive design is. It's really adapting to what the customer needs. But keep in mind, a responsive design is a lot more expensive and time consuming to design. If you don't want to spend that much of time and effort and energy, you can go in for something in between, which is called a fluid design. A fluid design makes sure that your text is 100% of the window. It will not change your call to action button. It will not change the layout. It will just make sure that your text is stretching across the window. So you use your fluid design when you have something like this, where you have only one image, center align it and make the rest of it text. A fluid design is a lot easier than the responsive to design, and it's at least not stretching anywhere. If you use MailChimp, MailChimp gives you options of all of these. Here's a demonstration of what the email looks like. This is the non-responsive design. Under responsive design, it will look something like this. And that brings us to the end of today's session.